大家好，这里是第5届国际公共艺术奖非洲板块的线上论坛部分。我是来自上海大学美术学院的张宇杰。首先，请允许我代表主办方介绍一下参与本次论坛的与会嘉宾。第一位是 Massamba 姆贝耶先生。Hello, Massamba。Hello。Massamba 是艺术评论家、策展人。达哈尔当代非洲艺术双年展艺术指导委员会委员。第二位是辛迪·利麦克布莱德女士。Hello, Cindy。辛迪呢是伯尔尼大学非洲研究中心的博士生。那第三位呢是阿图罗·维托里先生。Hi, Arturo。那阿图罗呢是意大利艺术家、建筑师和工业设计师，是瓦尔卡托特非政府组织的联合创始人，建筑与视觉设计工作室主管，也是本次非洲板块的优秀案例瓦尔卡沃特水塔的艺术家。第4位是我们的特聘的专家，是来自开普敦大学非洲研究中心的赖克西塔斯博士。Hi, Rike。赖克西塔斯博士呢，不仅是开普敦非洲研究中心的研究员，同时也是西开普敦大学人文研究中心的高级研究员。那么，非常欢迎大家抽空来到我们的论坛，为我们带来精彩纷呈的这个演讲。那么，接下来我们将把这个主持的权利交给 Massamba。由他来开始我们今天的一个论坛。Massamba, it's your turn now.
Okay, Uji, thank you. I'm really honored to moderate this panel with the distinguished invited person, expert, and artist. And I would like to give the floor to Arturo in order for him to present his interesting artwork. The trigger behind the project, the symbolic of the Warka tree, and all these very interesting aspects about his artwork. Arturo.
Yes, good morning. Yes. So should I present the Warka Tower?
Yes.
This is the question, right?
Right.
Okay. So first of all, thank you to all of you to be here and for this meeting, and also really honored to receive this this award, if we can introduce it like this. So happy to share with you today about the project, the Warka Tower, that has been selected for this award. The work we have done in Africa, in Ethiopia, in 2015. So concerning the project, the Warka Tower, it is a vertical structure that is designed to collect and to harvest water from the air, from the atmosphere, with the goal, with the, let's say, the function of providing potable water, so water for nutrition, for drinking, mainly, in places in rural Ethiopia where there is no access to infrastructure, there is no potable water provided, but the city infrastructure. And the community, they have to struggle in order to find the water. So they have to walk for many kilometers every day and to transport heavy-duty water tank to bring some water to home, to the family. So the idea behind the project is to be serving, people on a fundamental needs which is we should be guaranteed for everybody of us in these planets, but for some people it's very, very tough. So this is the intention with the Warka Tower. In order to do so, there is a design, philosophy, and approach behind it that is inspired by the country, Ethiopia, Africa, by the vernacular architecture, by the traditional technique, let's say, and the culture, the local culture, rather than by also nature, biomimicry, what is present locally. So this is the Warka, let's say, in very, very short, what is the Warka Tower project.
Yeah, thanks. And what the name Warka tree? Why do you choose this name, the symbolic of the Warka tree?
Yes, in fact, the name also comes from Africa, from this very first trip I did. And when I discovered and I realized this big issue about water, access, at the same time I discovered these beautiful communities in the rural Ethiopia, in the north side, that are living around the Warka tree, because the Warka tree, which is a huge, very large tree endemic from Ethiopia and also Yemen, the Warka tree is a symbolic element for the community, and it's very intelligent, a tree, because it's using the people for survival, while all the other trees are cut down and deforestation is destroyed. Almost all the country, the Warka tree managed to survive because people, they want to keep it, because that's this important, symbolic aspects. So the Warka tree is doing everything for the community, because it is providing food, nutrition, because it's a fig tree, not only for people, but also for animals, for chimpanzee, for birds, for livestock, and so on, so on. So it's also providing oxygen, and they know it, so it's purifying and make the air breathable. Moreover, it's created shade. So with these very large, branches, it creates up to 50-meter diameter, shade place, and the shades, it creates a microclimate, which is very pleasant during the day, even when it's very hot, for people to stay. So many activities of the village, of the community, are taken under the tree, which is now the center. Similar to us in our, civilization, we have the square where we have the city hall, the church. For them, the tree represents the place where they can provide their air, foods, and not only the physical needs, but also the spiritual needs are, are done there, because this is also the place where Ethiopian, they pray them God, in order to provide rain, in order to provide wet environment for the livestock, for the agriculture, for the survival, basically. So it represents this connection between community and the sky. And the Warka tree, it is inspired, and our work is inspired by the tree in the way that by providing a service to the community gives you, what is need for maintenance, because if they need you, they will take care of you. This is the learning behind my visit on these, beautiful small communities in rural Ethiopia. And this is why the name was chosen, because behind the Warka name, for me, there is all this know-how, all this intelligence that is kept inside the symbolic of the tree.
Good, very interesting case. Can you show us some pictures about this case?
Yes.
Please. Okay.
I don't know if you see the screen at the moment.
Yes, we'll see.
Okay. So I'm also learning while doing it. Okay, so here are some pictures of the very first installation in Ethiopia in 2015. The work was done in collaboration with the local community. We are in Dorze, South Ethiopia. In highlands, we are about 2,500 meters above the sea level. And the community, as I told, is called Dorzen, and the project was conducted also in collaboration with University, AABC of Addis Ababa Architectural University. So we made some workshop with the students. And then we went there and we worked directly with the local community. And we have made it and built it with them, using and learning from them local, tradition, using bamboo. This is some picture of the installation. Let me show you some picture of Ethiopia and about, yes, these amazing houses they built in this community is called Dorze. The houses, they're all made out of one material, bamboo. With bamboo, they construct these huge houses. And there is a lot I learned out of it. And this is where the inspiration of the project actually came. And the project was some more picture of this is picture of the community, who we have been working at the time. So this local community, it is about 300 people. This is just part of them. 300 people were living in this community. And some more picture of the community. The picture was taking the place that was chosen for the installation of the tower. So the goal and the idea was to construct, to demonstrate actually that we can construct such a structure, which we have already prototyped in Italy before this time. We can do it in Ethiopia, in this rural context, in collaboration with the community. This was the experiment of the pilot number one, the one that receiving the prize, has been selected for the award. Yeah. And the goal was to keep it running for 3 months, to test the integration with the community, and to see and to learn and to see the feasibility of it. So that was the goal of the pilot. And this is the location that was chosen. As you can see, it's a highlands, but during the day you have this big, fog formation, like clouds crashing into the highlands, and providing a lot of, humidity all in once. So maybe it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it is 26 degrees, it's very hot. And all of a sudden you have this, huge amount of water in the air, and they're not using it, they're not collecting it. And this is a very, a huge potential for water. But all the plants around, the bamboos, the trees, the banana, they're using it for survival, because there is no other water than this when it rains. So from this, also the idea to, you see the fog during the day. So the idea to collect this water for harvesting. This is the Warka tree we have been mentioning before. You see how the gathering under it. This is a school now going on. But during the day, different activities are taking place under this huge tree. Even it's very hot outside, under it is very, very, very pleasant to to be. So this is also a very important picture for me, because this is the very first impact I had with this this issue of, you know, lack of water, lack of potable water, water scarcity. So these pictures are the beginning of the project. What moves me to go to find a solution to help these people. You see the way they harvest the water from not safe and also sources, water sources they share with animals, and they transport it in this way without shoes, walking for kilometers and kilometers, several days, and there is a procession. There are many thousands of people doing it, you know, every day. And I was wondering, with all this humidity we have at this, you know, during the day and during the night, why we don't use the humidity and the rain. And the context is beautiful, it's very inspiring. As I was telling you before, you see how people, they live integrated with, you know, the natural environment, using local resources, constructing houses out of, you know, dry reeds and earth. And this was really, you know, fascinating me. It's like going back into the time, into a beautiful world, really aesthetically beautiful, and also the beauty of this community living in peace and this in this location, but still facing this huge problem of, you know, water access and others, for sure. So from this, then the project, I start, you know, brainstorming how to realize this project. And because there was not a client behind it asking my design office, which is called Architecture and Vision, asking myself if I could give, you know, a concept for it. We have been doing it ourselves, and knowing what was the problem, trying to find the best solution for this. And the project is ongoing. It's not finished. You know, we are working on it, and that one was the first pilot realized in the context. This is the context. You see, this is the highlands we have been constructing the pilot number 1. As I told you before, it is 2,500 meters above the sea level. And you see on the bottom, there is this huge lake, the Dakar Lake, which is providing a lot of humidity in the air, and also the clouds you see before that crash. And this is the situation, how people, you know, they search for what you see, the infinitive line, and the time they spend, you know, fetching for water. So another picture maybe showing how we have collaborated with the community, and the way I learned from them how to use the bamboo, because they have amazing skills of using, you know, this beautiful construction material, which is the bamboo, but they have their own technique, which is very, they are very skilled and very interesting. You've seen the houses before, these incredible huge houses they construct out of bamboo and bamboo leaves. So this is where the project was, you know, conceived also from the construction part point of view. But maybe I stop it now for the moment. If you have other questions, then and this is sorry, this is a picture showing the effects of the condensation during the night. You know, in the morning you have the formation of this, you know, all around on the natural elements, on the leaves of the plants, of the flowers, on the trees. So a lot of humidity, and as soon as the sun rises, all this water is evaporating.
Thank
Should
you.
I stop here? Or, yes.
Yes, it's really interesting. If you have more pictures, yes, they are welcome.
More what? More?
If you have more pictures, they are welcome. But it's I think that it's fair it's really generous too. And I would like, thank you, Arturo. I would like to welcome Sindi-Leigh McBride. How is it, Sindi?
Thanks, Massamba. It's Sindi-Leigh.
Sindi-Leigh, yes.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks also, Arturo. It was very interesting to look at those pictures and to hear you talk about how it came to be. So I'm obviously the researcher that wrote the case study. And
Yes.
I'll be a lot briefer because I obviously haven't worked on it as long as you have. But for me, there were three things that really stood out while I was researching and then writing about the towers. And the first one is, I don't have an architectural background, right? But this is first and foremost an architectural product. And it was really interesting to me how visually striking all the different iterations are. So just at like a face value, to look at them, they draw your eye in. So that was the first thing that I found really compelling. But then I think the second thing is really the heart of it, which is that it's a social justice driven work. So it doesn't just look good, you know, it's not just there to enhance, but all these things that you're talking about, access to water and the different conditions that go into that, really just gave so much more depth to it. And then what I also found very interesting, because you were very generous with sharing so much information about the project and about the different contexts, I thought it was really impressive and important how the towers are meant to be owned and operated by the communities that they are put in, which I think is really critical for looking at this as a whole development project. You know, it's not just about water, although that's obviously super important, but it's also about the upliftment of these communities. That was the second thing. And then the third thing was, I guess, just opening up questions of environmental justice and how to make sure that interventions adapt to the conditions that they are put in, right? So being really in tune with the meteorological conditions, but then also like what's happening in the earth, right? The actual characteristics of the ground that's built on, what's the geomorphology of the region. I thought that was connecting that to social conditions and cultures and traditional building materials and traditional design, I thought was so wonderful, how these different components of social conditions, environmental conditions, but then also histories could be so grounded. So yeah, those were sort of the things that I thought were really important when researching and when learning more. And it was also very wonderful that this was so well documented. At every step, it was very clear that it was super well researched. The photos were beautiful. It was really well written up. And just that as a total package it really made it a pleasure to write about. That's all from me.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
very interesting too. Dr. Rike Sitas, welcome too. How is it?
Thank you. Hi, and thank you for inviting us all into this panel and conversation and to engage with this really remarkable project. So Arturo, congratulations.
Thank you.
So yeah. So I come from an action-oriented and socially engaged research space. So a lot of the work that I do is around public art and around urban studies. And so therefore I'm always fascinated by how the artful, aesthetic, and in this case, architectural projects intersect with people, places, and obviously inevitably the macro and micro politics on the ground. So much of my research and practice has been exploring and experimenting at this nexus. So that's why it's always so fantastic to engage with other projects that are doing this kind of work. And in the past, I've consistently argued that public art has the potential to do more than just produce effective and aesthetic products and experiences. So it can, it can create platforms for encounter, it can interact with serious issues, often in less threatening ways than a lot of formal political processes. It can imagine through these challenges in ways that can surpass the real and the rational, and can time travel through past, presents, and futures in very liberating ways. But I also believe that these public art projects are sites of knowledge production, which Sindi-Leigh, you mentioned, that these projects create a platform for making and documenting knowledge. But then there's also a lot that's often experience of public art, to activate, to animate, to empower, to transform. All of these things are expectations that are often put on public art. And sometimes in trying to live up to these promises, public art can have unintended consequences and set up unrealistic expectations. So when art is not socially or spatially responsive, it can work to maintain the status quo, it can exacerbate inequalities, and especially in contexts in the global South and Africa, it can become weird playgrounds for global politics. And given that there are limited arts and cultural resources, there can often be helicoptering of finances and people from the global North to enhance the careers of international artists with little material benefits for locals. And as we know, African contexts are faced with myriad challenges and polycrises linked to economic inequalities, to gender disparities, unequal distribution of services and resources, climate crises, amongst many others. And these were often entrenched during colonialism, exacerbated by current global inequalities and skewed priorities. And these have obviously been accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic. And so sometimes, despite the best intentions of artists working within these contexts, things can go wrong, they can go awry, and in directions that were not foreseen. But also, Africa is not the sum total of its challenges. It's a young continent, it's culturally vibrant, connected, and has always been at the forefront of technological innovation, even if this has not always been recognized as such. And Arturo, your presentation really showed that the cutting edge of architecture is not necessarily the global North. And the kinds of innovation that exists are important to amplify and surface. So, this is why I believe that the cutting edge of art and music and food and so on will be in Africa and will be for the foreseeable future. And so, and within this context, it has always struck me about the International Public Art Awards that there really is a dedicated attempt to foreground and amplify and engage with projects that are critically engaged with contexts. And so there are three ways that I found that this project were remarkable in this regard. So the first is around the maneuverability and scale, how it moves across different places with a common approach and practice, but really being able to operate at scale within different sites, which I thought is quite incredible, and we can really see that in the documentation of the project that was shared with us. The second is around the materials, and particularly in the contextually responsive materials and practices, really surfacing what is existing, not just sort of bringing in a fix from somewhere else, really engaging in a local context with the kinds of practices that exist. And the third is around the multifaceted functionality, which also intrigued me that it and I think Sindi-Leigh, you also mentioned that your project is and also isn't about water and water scarcity. So water might be a material benefit from the project, but it also seems to be a tactic or catalyst for other things, like you were saying, Sindi-Leigh, like around environmental justice, around water justice, around a wide array of things. So I don't want to talk so much. I really am intrigued to hear more from you, Arturo, and I've got 5 questions that I wanted to pose or put into the conversation.
No problem, you can. It's 4.
Great, thank you. So the first is, so I'm curious to hear about 5 things. The first is the collaboration forms of cooperation needed for pulling off these kinds of projects at scale. So you've hinted at who you collaborated with, and I would really like to hear more about how. What were the personal arrangements that made the project possible? What is the kind of practice on the ground that happened? The second is around the social and spatial interactions, the daily engagements, the during and after. I'd love to hear more about the uses beyond water. It was mentioned that, for example, that the spaces was used as gathering space. So what were people doing? I'm also very curious about how did gender and age, for example, play out and how people engaged with the production process, but also with the sites in themselves. The third is, as with all projects, when they hit the ground, all sorts of unexpected things happen. So I'm really curious about what were some of the resonances and reverberations? What were the unintended consequences, both positive and negative? What are the kinds of experiential realities you had with working on the ground? The fourth one is one that I think preoccupies a lot of how we think about how people and politics interact. So I'm really curious about how you navigated the politics and positionality of being a white foreign architect in an African context and what comes with that. And finally, the fifth one is about the kind of longevity and sustainability, not only of the architectural structures, but what now? What next? What happens? Sindi-Leigh, you were talking about the kinds of environmental justice issues. What is it now a catalyst for beyond the project? I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. About the last point, what next? Maybe we can reserve it for the conclusion. But yes, Arturo, you have a lot of points. Welcome.
Some very interesting questions, and yeah. So, can we start from the first question?
Oh, do you want me to ask it again?
Please, the first one.
Sure.
So we
Sure.
go one by one. And
yeah, so the one is around collaboration and cooperation and how that all worked.
Okay, so should we also be sharing the screen, or is it? Are we sharing it? So do you see the images?
Yeah, we can see the images. I mean, I think it's maybe it's up to you if the images you want to share that help responding to the questions.
Okay, but do you see the images on screen or not? I don't know
Yes.
if I'm sharing the screen. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, I will use the images. It's important to have also a visual understanding of what we are talking about. So concerning the first question is concerning the collaboration, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Collaboration. Yes. So the project has been it is developed now today in Africa. Today we are in Cameroon, and since the beginning of the first pilots, the project has been developed further with the local community. This is a very important element of the project, in which I believe very strongly that if you don't really, bring the project to the context where you want to realize it, especially for such, a project, all the effort you do maybe will be vanishing soon. What I want to say is that the challenge initially was technological. So how can we harvest water from the air? So which material, which design strategy, and so on, so on. Soon, the challenge has moved from this to how can you introduce such, let's say, innovating approach of, providing a fundamental resource to a traditional context, which can be a rural village in Africa. That was, and it is a huge challenge. And for this is fundamental the collaboration, not only with the scientists, and experts, but also with people that are living in this community and have completely different background, culture, expectation. So when you introduce a new elements to a traditional community, there is a first impact, which is the integration of the structure to the community. Community can be refusing it, even if it is useful for them, or even if it is beautiful. Maybe they can be refusing because they don't understand it, they don't own it, they don't feel it. It is part of their culture. But by constructing, by building, by making it with them, that was a big advantage, because at the end of the day, they felt like they did it. It's done by them. It is not an unknown technology, but it is actually an appropriate technology, because they know how to handle it, because it is simple. It is made with the material they know, with the technology they know, the tools they know. They've done themselves. In this, the collaboration is fundamental for, let's say, the success for the projects in this, especially in this concept, in this context. And this is also very difficult, because you have to deal with, you know, a different approach in designing, constructing things. You have to adapt to what is locally available, and also on what people they can accept and deal with. This is why the design was also done together with them. Why you share life, you share food. For example, sharing food is a very important part of the African culture. In Ethiopia, it is there when you share a cup of coffee and you eat some food, and you share the food in the same plate, and at the same time you share your idea, and you understand. They see that you try to integrate with the community, to understand the community. Then they start to trust you, because the first impression I had as a white man going to a rural village in Africa, there are a lot of stereotypes, you know, and you have to fight with those if you want to succeed. You have to explain what is your approach, what are your intention, because the first things they will think of, there are all these, you know, already made package that will be that already in everybody's mind. So it takes time, and the time is not the time for constructing a structure. The time is for integrating to the community, being part of the community. Because if this element is not there, the project will not succeed. So collaboration, in few words, to answer your question, collaboration is very fundamental with the local community for a project like this. Sorry, I've been a little bit long, but so if it is okay, we move to the second question. Should we?
Yes, I think that is okay. Okay. Second point.
So, yes. Sorry, what was the second point once again?
Yeah, thank you for the response to the first one. I think you kind of also engaged with the fourth one around positionality. The second question was really around the social and spatial interactions, and kind of daily engagements during and after, how people engaged with the space.
With the space. Okay.
Yeah, with the architecture and with what you built. Yeah.
Yes. So the idea, it was also the following: structure why such the Warka Tower. It is a piece of architecture, for sure, because it is you know, providing a shelter, providing gathering place, and this is important because fetching for water, it's important, but it's all taking a few minutes. After you fill your, you know, water tank, then you leave it, and the structure, it is there during the day by itself. So we wanted to have an animated place, the center of the village for gathering. So you have to offer more services. And this is where we start thinking, you know, what else can be done once we have the Warka Tower. So first of all, we talked about, for example, providing power. And with the power, we have illumination. So the first test we did was this one with a simple, you know, power bank of my mobile phone and the little LED lights. Immediately during the night, during the evening, the little girl that is living nearby, that during the day it doesn't have time to go to school or to dedicate to herself because it is bringing the livestock around. immediately she went there and she started reading the book we brought. And this moment, I took it, fortunately I have this picture to remember this moment, really make me understand that there is so much we can do with very little, because this is very little about, what we are doing. A little LED lights can change the life, because now the girls can do activities then during the day, and also can use the night, which is very long. And where there is no electricity, there is nothing you can do, because it is not safe, because there's nothing you can do. So now children, they can play, they can read, they can study, they can do activities that during the day they can't really think of. So, for example, that is, let's say, evening, night use of the tower. But also, once we bring water, which is a fundamental resource for life, then many other things that can be undertaken. For example, education. Educating children about, for instance, water. It's very important, because the problem is not only the lack of potable water, but also lack of education, how to keep water safe, how to wash your hands, how to understand when the water is you can trust and when the water you cannot trust. So once you have it, you can start series of other activities, and also producing food with the leftover water. You can start cultivating and having an edible garden. So during the day you can take care of this as well. For instance, an example, talking to the children of the community, I discovered that they were told that water from the rain is not potable. So I was very surprised to see and to hear that. So sometimes there are cultural, beliefs which are not really scientifically proved, like this one. So by explaining that water from the rain can be drinked, must be processed, must be filtered, must be enriched with minerals, but it is the water that you find in the river. It's the same water, so it is a potential water for supporting life. So there is also a lack in education, in training the people that can be done under the Warka Tower, that is catching the attention. The community is a place everybody is attracted, especially the children, because it's colored, because it was looking attractive. So, and there is a good place for starting new initiatives like this and more. So it's becoming a social place as well. And also around this, there is the idea to move the economy of support the economy of the village through the production of agriculture, but also production of art crafts. They are very skilled in doing many, beautiful art craft in adobe and ceramic, but also in wood and natural elements. And all this can be, once they have the time to dedicate it to this, because they free some time by looking for finding water around, they can dedicate to the realization of beautiful art craft. They can sell them in the market, or we can help them to sell it in the international market as well, to provide some financial resource and to let them doing something artistic, some culturally, something they can enjoy and use to support the family. And also the power is very important to recharge the mobile devices. So often they have little mobile phone, which them use for communicating with the other part of the family living in the city. But the limitation is not the connection. Sometimes it's really the way they cannot recharge it. Very simple, problem. So integrating solar power into the Warka Tower, what we have that we can provide connection, so they can be connected and they can be also supporting life and saving life once you have access to be reachable and to be reached by other people once you are isolated. So I will stop maybe here with this second question, and maybe we can move to the fourth one or the third one. If you can please remind me the fourth question.
Sure. Thank you. And thanks for such generous responses. The third one was just more about the kind of unexpected things that happened. But I think you have sort of spoken a little bit about that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure you want to add anything.
Yes, there are several unexpected things that happen, which actually made the story of the project, made the project stronger, which, you know, we couldn't expect before designing it in Europe. By going there and then dealing with the reality in the rural village, we have many unexpected situations that has been implementing, and we have been using it for. They've been huge challenge sometimes, but then, for example, just to make one example, simple example of an issue we have encountered, that is, we found that the birds, they like to see on top of the tower, because it is a place where, you know, they can have a good observation of the landscape. At the same time, being there, they also were delivering inside the tower, around the tower. And this is not really what we expected. Where you have water, you don't want to have organic contamination. So now the challenge was how we get rid of the birds, even if we want to have birds, because we don't want to be against nature. So, and this is the idea of introducing these little kites that are on top of the, we call it antennas. They are moving with the winds, they are shaking, they are reflecting the sunlight and the moonlight. They are aesthetically attractive, so they have an aesthetical value. They also have a technical one, because they show where is the direction of the wind, which is important for different aspects of the functioning. But also they keep birds away from, because they don't like these shining elements, and they don't trust them, so they just don't see them anymore. And also we put some little bells, so the little sounds coming with the movement and shaking of the structure, which is very flexible with the wind. And these sounds and this light reflection keep the birds away. This is just one anecdote, one example of, you know, of the challenge we've been facing.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. McBride, do you have something to add?
Me?
No, I mean, I would just like to say thank you, Rike, for your questions, which I think are really, really rich ones. But of course, Arturo, it's very cool to hear. I mean, it's a nice question to go, what was unexpected, and who would be thinking about the birds? So thank you to you both for really, really great questions, but also really detailed answers. I enjoyed hearing both sides.
Okay, thank you. Maybe the last point about next steps. Arturo, can you tell us more about this point?
Next steps. Okay.
Yes.
So let me take some pictures now to talk about next step. So 2015, with the Warka Tower in Ethiopia, we have demonstrated that we can harvest water and provide water to the local community with this approach. Now, from there, we realized that we can do much more than this. So then providing water. Water is already fundamental from human life. Without water, there's nothing we can do. But once you have water, it's much more you can do. So we talk about education, training, creating food, energy, compost. So we can provide nutrition, hygiene, education, economy, healthcare, ecosystem. So all this now it is what is next. So I think that a sustainable approach should not only focus on one department, water, but we should have more like a wider approach to the problem, because finally, if we don't solve also the other problems, issues around, the water is not enough, because if the environment is, for example, contaminated, and even contaminated biologically by the fact that there is no toilets and there are going toilets all around the houses, with the time this is a very dangerous environment and can create several risks linked to the unhealthy condition, and the water is contaminated as well by insects, then flies and all this and all that. So creating toilets, for instance, is very fundamental in order to have a sustainable community. Creating healthcare, also basic healthcare, it's local. It's very important. So today we moved from the Warka Tower to what we call the Warka Village. The Warka Village is the integration of all these fundamental, services to the community. So around the Warka Tower, we are constructing now habitations, as well as sanitation, toilets, kitchen, and place for people to gather, to create the art craft and atelier, and to store food, and so on, a little clinic, and all this need. And this has been started in 2019, and the project is under construction. It is in Cameroon, in the South Cameroon. And this is already provided by the first Warka Tower, and two more are under construction on this site. And the main objective of this action is to support local indigenous people, which are the Pygmies and other, by providing shelter, food, basic healthcare, water, sanitation, economy, but also the environment, to regenerate, protect, and reforestate the Congo Basin rainforest ecosystem, which is a very important ecosystem, not only for Cameroon and the Pygmies, but for the entire planet, because this forest, this huge rainforest, is what is providing oxygen and catching the CO2 of the entire planet. So by protecting this ecosystem and these people, we also protect our life in our countries and our well-being in our places. And this is also a collaboration with the local community.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you, Dr. Sitas, do you have something to add, or Mrs. McBride? No?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for the very generous answers. And I think it's that lovely daily texture that doesn't always come through in reports, those like anecdotal moments that really animate projects. So I really enjoyed listening to them. Thank you.
Yes, me too.
Welcome.
I would also like to say thank you, Massamba, for keeping this conversation going so nicely.
Yes, don't mention really. I think that this case was not only for Africa, for Asia, but it is really for human beings. And this case is showing that it's possible to have another way of living. Yes, it's possible to have another world. It's possible to have another way of coping with the climate situation, and so on and so forth. And all this is linked with aesthetics points, very interesting aesthetics point, formal shapes, and so on and so forth. And that's the reason why that I think that this work is really remarkable. And I would like to thank you for your very interesting contribution. And I think that it's really interesting it was very interesting to have a discussion about this case. May peace be with you and all the people in the world. And thank you for your attention. Great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the conversation today. I think it's just great. And I really enjoyed the question and the answer and your dialogue very much. I think it will inspire the audience tomorrow. So thank you very much for the recording. I think it's okay now. So thanks again.